Hey kiddies, we're back on track with Nicolas Cage month with the Netflix grab bag. What would you have me do? That's right, Nicolas Cage month continues. Sorry I had to take a week off, but apparently watching a lot of boring Nicolas Cage movies can lower one's immune system to severe levels. But now we're back on track, and unfortunately, I do still have to talk to you about these three really boring Nicolas Cage movies that are available to you for streaming on Netflix right at this moment. Our menu includes Seeking Justice, Trespass, and Stolen. Originally, these were just going to be three unrelated movies. It's just the shit they got on Netflix. It turns out that they have a lot more in common than not, or it's, starting to get to me, and I'm just seeing patterns in all the wonderful facets of Nicolas Cage. But seriously, though, all three of these movies are filmed in Louisiana, two of which are actually set in Nolans. And in each of these, Nicolas Cage's family is used against him to commit nefarious deeds, which is kind of weird that all of them would come out in kind of rapid succession and be on Netflix right now. We're going to go in order of increasing entertainment, and unfortunately that means we start with Seeking Justice, which was really, really dull. It's a bit of a slog to get through, which is bad because the premise isn't terrible. Nicolas Cage, I'm not going to give his characters names because they're all just Nicolas Cage. More so than in any other Nicolas Cage movies that I've seen, he's clearly doing these movies to pay his hideous tax bills, because 9 times out of 10, Nick will find something in the movie to have fun with. In these three, he really isn't having any fun at all. He's just going through the motions, which is just sad, because at minimum, he idles at interesting, and now he's just really underperforming. So, Seeking Justice, Nick Cage and his hot yet completely emotionless wife, January Jones. I've never watched Mad Men. I've only seen her in X-Men First Class as an underwhelming Emma Frost. So you guys are going to have to let me know. Does she emote ever under any circumstances? Because, I mean, look at this. It's just no matter what she's doing in this movie, it's the same exact look on her face. Unfortunately, she is attacked and raped. And while Nick is in the hospital just kind of dealing with everything, he's approached by Guy Pearce, playing the aptly named Simon. Simon's going to be saying a lot of things for Nick to do in the film. It's sort of weird because, like, in all of these movies, you'll have actors where, your knee-jerk reaction is to say, oh, wow, they're slumming it. Even Nick Cage. But, I don't know. I love Guy Pearce. I think Guy Pearce is one of the more interesting actors out there. But you can't really say that he's captured the cultural zeitgeist. So is he slumming it as the bad guy in this movie? Yeah, the jury's out. Either way, he approaches Nick Cage with the proposition that his group, will take out the attacker of his wife if he'll just do a little favor later. So, of course he agrees to do this, otherwise we wouldn't have a movie. And later when they come around to get him to do favors for them, it involves, murder of other people and other nefarious things. So who the hell has he signed up with? And, the rest of the movie is him trying to extricate himself from this horrible plight. Again, the premise isn't bad. It's not a poorly put together film, because there's a lot of neat stuff with just letting the story tell itself visually, with the investigation scenes where Nick is on his own. He's not talking to himself. He's just acting and doing it. But it sort of takes forever. And at the end of the day, it's just boring. The butter is spread too thin on the piece of toast that is Seeking Justice. But don't worry, this is the worst it's going to get, because next we have the, I'll go with equally boring, but at least it moves at a better pace. There's, regular beats. I'm sorry. Trespass by Joel Schumacher. Yeah, that Joel Schumacher. And in this one, Nick Cage plays a sleazy diamond dealer slash absentee husband to Nicole Kidman. Again, like Guy Pearce. Is she slumming it? I don't know. Because she hasn't been making a lot of movies that have been interesting. Stoker aside. But she's in it. And I mean, Nicolas Cage, while something of a joke, is still a name. So I don't know. Either way. They get taken hostage by Ben Mendelsohn and company. Ben Mendelsohn is kind of an up-and-coming character actor. You saw him in The Dark Knight Rises and The Place Beyond the Pines. And they want all the money and jewels in Nicolas Cage's safe, but Nick is smart enough to know that he and his family will be murdered if they give in, so we get these ongoing contests for time and or, negotiating. And there are a lot of good just Nick playing a straight-laced guy dealing with a high-stress situation. So he kind of, hulks out, for a lack of a better term, but, he turns from, like, meager Nick into real Nick. I was surprised because I was getting into it in spite of myself. There was like a good succession of story beats and interesting twists and turns, and it was building towards this really great climax. And then I checked the time, and there was still a half hour to go. And this half hour just drags like there's no tomorrow because for whatever reason he gets roughed up a lot. But there are very few physical reasons for the fact that, like, for the last half hour, Nicolas Cage is essentially catatonic. He's just sitting in this chair, a la the movie poster, and he's just doing nothing, and everybody else is freaking out. The crooks have all this stuff that's going horribly wrong. Nicole Kidman is, we don't know what her story is. Is she in on it? Is she not? What is her relation to their captors? All their captors have, their own personal problems. Ben Mendelsohn is, over a barrel. His younger brother's kind of nuts. He's Ben Mendelsohn's girlfriend is a junkie, and then there's Dash Mihawk in there, and it's really boring. It's really dull for a good portion of the later half of the film, and I didn't understand it. There's resolution, but it's not satisfying in any real way. The movie doesn't end so much as it just stops, and I guess that's a mercy in and of itself. Trespass, just terrible. All these movies are terrible, but at least we're at our third movie, which is, oddly, almost decent. This is Stolen, whereas the previous two films are really just out and out dull. This one, it's almost like it's about 15 years too late. This would have made a great mid to late 90s Nicolas Cage movie, and everybody would have loved it. It would have been, another Con Air or Gone in 60 Seconds. Actually, this one is directed by the guy that made Con Air, which, Con Air. You're in trouble when you're thinking back fondly to Con Air. So Nicolas Cage is a great safecracker bank robber who ends up going to jail for 8 years, and when he comes out, he's trying to rebuild his relationship with his estranged daughter, and one of his old gang members, played by a very spastic, peg-legged Josh Lucas, he thinks that Nick owes him like $10 million, and he kidnaps the daughter, and Nick has 12 hours to get the money to save the girl. But of course he doesn't have the money, so there's a lot of running around and a lot of being on the phone. And just about everybody spends the bulk of the movie on the phone talking to somebody else, trying to get something done, even though nothing is getting done in the movie. Whereas the other ones, we just had like one guy seemingly slumming it. A lot of people are in this movie that may or may not be playing below or above their their stature. I mean, we had the aforementioned Josh Lucas, who has been around forever, and he's one of the triumvirate of Matthew McConaughey impersonators with like Cole Hauser and somebody else. Malin Ackerman is the female lead slash ex gang member. Danny Houston is running around in there with an absurd pork pie hat, and he's seconded by Mark Valley of television fame, I guess. It at least keeps moving. There's like rarely a moment where anybody's like stopping to catch their breath. There's just it's always something is always happening, and if your movie is dull, you can make up for it by having something happening all the time, which this one does. And Nick almost looks like he's having fun. He's at least tired, from all the work he's doing. He sort of looks a lot like just straight laced. It's sort of like Stanley Goodspeed from The Rock, but without the eccentricities, where he's just kind of concentrating on the job at hand. I think good guy Nicolas Cage in Face Off as opposed to bad guy Nicolas Cage in Face Off, and you've got more of the character here, which is workable. I can deal with that. And we end on this one because Nick looks like he's having a little bit of fun with at least parts of the movie, as opposed to the first two, where he's really just not having any fun at all. To make up for this, next week we're going to look at movies where Nick is having entirely too much fun. And by fun, I mean the director just let him freak out. But either way, if you so choose, on Netflix right now is Stolen, Trespass, and Seeking Justice. And we'll continue. Hopefully I won't get sick again, and we'll continue next week with our continuing look into the craziness that is The Cage.